It's a pleasure to be before you once again this afternoon. If you would be turning over to Romans chapter 14. This is one of those passages that you can read, learn more about it, but then the next time you look at it, it means a lot to you, gains more meaning. And with current events, at least for myself, this falls in that category. Before we read that passage, again, Romans 14, 7 to 12, I saw something the other day online. It said, rivers don't drink their own water. Trees don't eat their own fruit. The sun doesn't shine for itself. And thus there's many things in nature that don't live for themselves. It was penned slightly differently by John Donne that no man is an island. With that, I'd like to read our passage. The Apostle Paul penned here in verse 7, "For none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. For whether we live unto the Lord, and whether we die unto the Lord. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord's. For to this end Christ both died, and rose, and revived, that he might be Lord both of the dead and living. But why dost thou judge thy brother? Or why dost thou set at naught thy brother? For we shall all stand before the judgment seat of Christ. For it is written, As I live, saith the Lord, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall confess to God. So then every one of us shall give account of himself to God." You think of everyone in this room. If one of us was to not be here next week, sick, out of town, perhaps even death, I reckon that would make an impact on every one of us. We have folks that reach out, "Hey, we missed you yesterday. Hope everything's okay." Or even worse, you don't hear from them ever again. No man liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. From a personal standpoint, we're all Christ's as Christians. We live for him through our actions, and at our death, if we're faithful, we're following the steps of Lazarus. We receive paradise. Now, just as in that account of rich man and Lazarus, you had the rich man receiving his reward for evil deeds done in the flesh. He didn't die unto himself. In fact, what do you see? Send Lazarus back so my family can be warned of what's coming. So you have family members here, or really family members that might have passed on. Depending on where they are, perhaps they're in torments, and they recognize that you're not living the life you should. Do you think they have a similar prayer? Yet, there's no power in that request because there's a great gulf. It's up to us individually. So as no man lives to himself and no man dies to himself, as members of the world, why not consider the concerns of your family who've faithfully gone on before you? Ultimately, you need to do it for yourself. Consider where you're going after this life. And if you're faithful, consider how well you can serve God in this life and go on to your reward. You never fully know just how many people you you interact with and really influence. Even right now, this broadcast is going on the internet. And this feeble attempt at God's word, this preaching, is being broadcasted on who knows where. There are people who might be hearing me right now that I might never know this side of Jordan. And based on what I've been told, Johnny Oxendine has been talking about me over in England. So there's folks over there that know me, and I don't even know them yet. We never understand how far of a reach our influence can have, both positive and negative. But if we're lost, you still don't die to yourself. You don't live to yourself. You impact others. And ideally, we as Christians can impact you. So at this time, we wish to extend the invitation to those who might wish to obey the gospel, whether by ultimately being baptized for the remission of sins, or as a child of God who has been erring, to be restored. No one lives to themselves. No one dies to themselves. But we also must realize we will confess to God, and we will give an account of ourselves to God when this life is over. Are you ready for that? If not, please obey the gospel as you have need right now.